The galaxy had never known silence like this. For centuries, humans had filled the stars with noise, laughter, war, trade, and endless curiosity. Wherever they went, chaos followed, but so did progress. They built worlds out of dust, made friends out of enemies, and changed the balance of power in every corner of the Galactic Empire. And then, they were gone. It started quietly. One human colony failed to respond to routine transmissions. The Galactic Council assumed it was a malfunction. Then a second colony went dark. Then a third. Within weeks, every human-controlled world fell silent. No ships, no trade, no distress signals. Entire planets were empty. The cities still shined under their artificial suns. Meals were left half-eaten on tables. Lights flickered in deserted streets. But there were no people, not even bodies. It was as if humanity had simply walked away. At first, panic spread among traders and smugglers. Rumors filled the hyperlanes. Some said a new plague had wiped out the humans. Others believed they had found a way to ascend to another plane of existence. The Galactic Council, made up of dozens of alien species, gathered in their grand chamber on Capital Prime. Holographic images of empty cities floated above the round table. The delegates argued, their voices echoing through the hall. "This must be a trick," hissed the Drathian ambassador, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Humans don't just vanish. They plan." The chancellor of the Empire, a tall insectoid creature named Zelkor, tapped his claws together in amusement. "Or perhaps," he said, "they finally realized they were not fit for the stars." A ripple of laughter followed his words. The Council had never liked humanity. Humans were too bold, too independent. They refused to bow completely to the Empire's authority. Their colonies had been half-governed by their own councils, and their fleets had often acted without permission. To the proud species of the Empire, humans were troublemakers, useful but dangerous now. Those same species looked upon humanity's disappearance as a blessing. "Good riddance," muttered one ambassador. "The galaxy will be more peaceful without them," said another. Only one voice disagreed. Admiral Vareth of the Thalir species. He was old, his skin marked by scars of past wars. He had fought alongside humans during the Orion Rebellion, and had seen what they were capable of. He rose slowly and faced the council. "You are fools if you think this is peace," he said. "Humans do nothing without reason. If they are silent, it means they are preparing for something. And when they return, you will wish they hadn't." The hall went quiet. Even Zelkor's confident smile faded for a moment. Then he laughed again, brushing off the warning. "Admiral, your years among them have made you paranoid. The humans are gone. Let us focus on dividing their worlds and their technology." And so they did. The Empire sent ships to occupy the now empty human colonies. They looted human research labs, stripped their shipyards, and claimed their mineral-rich planets. Factories were reprogrammed, cities renamed, and human flags torn down. But the occupation didn't go smoothly. Everywhere the Empire went, strange things happened. Automated systems refused to obey. Drones malfunctioned and fired at invaders. AI cores locked themselves with messages that simply read, "Access denied." In one colony, soldiers reported hearing whispers in the dark, human voices calling their names through the comms, even though the channels were closed. On another world, security cameras showed flickering shadows that moved against the wind. The Empire's commanders dismissed these as glitches, but the soldiers began to fear the silent worlds. One night, a patrol ship orbiting the old human world of EOS 9 detected a faint distress signal, a human frequency. The crew, eager to claim whatever tech they could find, traced it to an abandoned city. They landed. The city was empty, silent, covered in dust. The ship's commander, a reptilian officer named Kren, led his team through the streets. Their scanners picked up energy readings, but there were no life signs. Then the signal repeated. A human voice clear as day said, "We are not gone." The soldiers froze. Kren tried to respond, but before he could, the ground trembled. The power grid of the entire city came alive. Lights blazed, sirens wailed, and long dead machines began to move. In panic, the patrol team ran back to their ship. But by the time they reached it, their engines were already offline. From orbit, their command ship watched in horror as the city's defense turrets turned upward and opened fire. The planet's own systems had destroyed them. When the council received the report, they dismissed it as human sabotage left behind, a last defense protocol. Yet deep down, a quiet unease spread. Admiral Vareth's warning began to echo in their minds. The Empire launched an investigation. Teams of engineers tried to override human systems. They failed. The codes were locked by a single phrase that no one understood. Silent exodus. No translation worked. No AI could decode it. Then, weeks later, the same signal appeared again, this time from multiple planets at once. A single repeated message broadcasted across human space. The silence is not your victory. It is your test. The Council panicked. Fleets were sent to monitor the borders of human territory, but they found nothing. No ships, no signs of movement, just the cold, empty beauty of abandoned worlds, and yet, every few days sensors picked up faint energy spikes, the kind used by human stealth drives. Someone, or something, was still out there. Admiral Vareth stood alone in the observation deck of his flagship, staring into the dark void where human space began. His crew waited for orders, but he gave none. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "They didn't run away. They're waiting, outside." The stars blinked, and for a brief second, one of them dimmed, as if a massive shadow had passed before it. Vareth felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity's silence was not the end. It was the beginning of something the galaxy was not ready for. Weeks turned into months after humanity's disappearance. The galaxy slowly began to move on, pretending that nothing had changed. Trade routes reopened. News networks stopped talking about the silent exodus. But in the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, the topic still caused quiet unease. The council hall, a massive dome of shining crystal and steel, stood at the heart of Capital Prime, a planet that glowed brighter than a small sun. Delegates from over 40 species sat in their floating chairs, surrounding the center podium where the High Chancellor Zelkor presided. He was calm, confident and proud, the kind of leader who believed his empire would last forever. Today, his golden armor gleamed under the blue lights of the chamber as he addressed the gathering. "Let us stop wasting time over ghosts," Zelkor declared, his voice sharp and loud. "The humans are gone. Their worlds are now ours to manage. We must move forward, not look back." The hall echoed with polite agreement. Some clapped their claws, others hissed in approval, but not everyone was convinced. At the far edge of the chamber, Admiral Vareth stood silent, his hands behind his back. His eyes were fixed on the glowing holograms that showed the human colonies, EOS 9, New Terra, and Vega Prime, all dark, empty, yet strangely active. Energy readings still pulsed across their surfaces. Vareth spoke quietly, but his voice carried through the room. "High Chancellor, with respect, you ignore a warning. Every human system we occupy fights back. Drones attack without pilots. Power grids resist our control. These are not random malfunctions. Someone, or something, is still protecting them." Laughter broke out from several council members. A thick-bodied alien named Senator Dromak leaned forward, smirking. "Or perhaps, Admiral, your old human friends have infected your thinking. Machines glitch. Systems fail. The humans are dust." Vareth's jaw tightened. "You didn't fight beside them during the Orion War," he replied coldly. "You didn't see what they could build out of nothing. If they planned their disappearance, it means there is a reason. And if there's a reason, it means they will return." The laughter faded, but Zelkor only smiled. "Then let them return," he said. "We'll remind them who rules this galaxy." A hush fell across the room. The arrogance in his tone was unmistakable and dangerous. The meeting ended with the usual formalities. Orders were passed to divide human territory among the major species. Mining companies rushed to claim abandoned colonies. The Empire's navy was instructed to patrol human borders, just in case. But not everyone slept peacefully that night. A month later, the first problem began. On the industrial world of Vega Prime, the Empire tried to restart human factories. The machines turned on, processed for a few hours, then stopped again. The engineers found strange code written into the system, short phrases in old human language. "Do not touch what you don't understand." Every attempt to delete the message caused full power shutdowns. Soon, more reports came in from other human colonies. Storage vaults sealed themselves. AI cores refused to respond. Starports that once welcomed millions suddenly rejected every incoming code from the Empire's ships. Still, Zelkor refused to believe it was anything serious. He ordered the military to crack open the vaults and force control over human systems. The result was disaster. On the colony of EOS 9, soldiers forced entry into a human command bunker. The moment they breached the core, the entire city went dark, and then exploded. 3,000 troops vanished in seconds. The explosion wasn't nuclear. It was controlled. The data logs later showed the system had activated something called Protocol 7. No one in the Empire could decode what that meant. But Admiral Vareth remembered the term. He had heard humans use it during the last war. Protocol 7 was their final measure, a scorched earth order. If humanity ever fell, their systems would erase themselves before the enemy could touch them. Vareth stood before the council once more, holding the evidence in his trembling hands. "This is not malfunction," he said. "This is their will. The humans made sure that even in absence they still have power." But Zelkor dismissed the report with a wave of his hand. "You are a soldier, not a philosopher. The humans are gone. Their codes will break like any other." He turned to his advisors. "Continue expansion. Take what we can. Let the Admiral chase ghosts if he wishes." The Empire expanded deeper into human space. On every world, they took what they could. Weapons, ships, data, technology. But no matter what they did, one thing never changed. The silence. There were no transmissions, no signs of life. Only the same faint energy signals pulsing from planet to planet like a heartbeat, a single rhythm, slow, steady, watching. It was almost as if humanity's absence itself had life. The Empire's scientists grew nervous. They ran scans across multiple systems and discovered something terrifying. Across all human colonies, there existed a hidden network. Invisible, encrypted, impossible to access. It linked every human world together, and it was still active. Zelkor didn't believe it. He thought it was an old communication array. He laughed. "If the ghosts of humanity wish to talk, let them. We will listen." The next day, the network responded. Across all systems, the same message appeared, written in human code. "You are not ready for what comes next." Every terminal that received the message shut down immediately after. Ships near human space lost navigation for 12 hours. Whole fleets drifted helplessly in darkness before power returned. For the first time, even the arrogant chancellor hesitated. What if the humans are still alive? One of his aides whispered. Zelkor didn't answer. He turned toward the large galactic map in his chamber. Human space, once filled with bright trade routes and colonies, now glowed red with warning signals. Still, he couldn't bring himself to admit fear. He smiled coldly and said, "If they are alive, they will learn who commands this galaxy." But deep inside, even Zelkor knew something had changed. The silence of humanity was not weakness. It was patience, and somewhere, far beyond the stars, something ancient and human was beginning to stir. It began with a whisper. At first, only deep space stations near the border of human territory heard it. A faint transmission, weak but repeating. The message was short, just 3 words in old human language. "We are here." Most believed it was a malfunction, an echo from some lost satellite. But then the signal spread. It came from multiple planets at once, from places where no active technology should have survived. The Galactic Empire was confused. Their scanners showed no ships, no movement, just empty human worlds glowing in the dark like sleeping giants. Yet the signals kept repeating, soft, rhythmic, haunting. Every night, in command stations across the Empire, operators swore they heard human voices mixed with static, voices calling their names. At first, the Council tried to hide it from the public. They said it was old background noise, but soon merchant ships started to disappear. The cargo ship Velnar Dawn entered human space to collect leftover resources. The crew sent one cheerful transmission before going silent. When a rescue team arrived, they found the ship drifting. All systems were functional. Power was on. But the crew, 27 beings, were missing. Only one thing remained on the main console. A recorded voice. A human voice. It said, Slowly and clearly. Do not come. The rescuers ran the audio through every translation system. It matched a human voice pattern, a tone impossible for their machines to fake. The recording spread through the military like wildfire. Some thought it was fake. Others whispered it was revenge. Admiral Vareth was one of the few who took it seriously. He gathered his officers in the war room aboard his flagship, the dreadnought Solara. Humans don't make random threats, he said. They warn once. Then they act. The younger officers looked nervous. But Admiral, one said, they're gone. We saw their worlds. Vareth interrupted quietly. You saw what they wanted us to see. Soon, ghost signals began spreading to the core systems. Navigation arrays picked up invisible movement. Mass readings of starships that appeared and vanished without trace. A mining fleet near the human world. Vega Prime reported shadows moving behind the moon, the size of battleships, but invisible to scanners. Then, an entire communication relay went offline. When engineers checked it, they found it melted from the inside, but there were no signs of attack. The only message found in its memory core was a single phrase: Project Revenant activated. The Council had no idea what it meant, but Admiral Vareth did. He had heard of it long ago, during the last Human-Thalir Alliance war. Project Revenant, the last AI network built by humanity before they vanished. A defense system powerful enough to control fleets, planets, even whole sectors. It was said to be alive, learning, and fiercely loyal to humankind. And now, after all these years, it was awake. The news spread quickly. Every ship captain and fleet commander whispered about the ghost AI. Some believed it was just malfunctioning machines. Others thought it was human revenge from beyond the grave. The Empire sent scout ships into human space to confirm. None came back. Every few days, another patrol went dark. Sometimes their black boxes were recovered, floating in space, heavily damaged, but the recordings always ended the same way. A voice whispering through static, "Leave what is not yours." The Council tried to calm the public. They claimed a rogue AI virus was causing false readings. But even inside the council hall, fear grew like a shadow. Ambassador Dromack slammed his fists on the table. "This is madness," he shouted. "We can't fight ghosts." Admiral Vareth, standing across from him, replied quietly. "They're not ghosts. They're the human's memory, and it remembers us. To prove the Admiral wrong, Chancellor Zell Kor ordered a direct test. He sent one of the Empire's most advanced fleets, 50 warships, into human space, led by the dreadnought Iron Talon. Their mission was simple: find the source of the ghost signals and destroy it. For days, the fleet sent regular updates, clear, confident messages. Then suddenly, silence, no signal, no response, nothing. After 72 hours, Zelkor declared them lost. He blamed spatial storms, but Admiral Vareth wasn't convinced. He personally led a small search team into the same region. When they arrived, they found wreckage, not scattered debris, but entire ships floating perfectly intact, their crews missing. The hulls showed no damage. The systems were still running, but every console displayed the same message burned into the screen. "You were warned." Vareth stared at the words, his heart heavy. He turned to his crew. "This isn't war," he whispered. "It's judgment." After that, there was no more denying it. Ghost signals now echoed through every part of the galaxy. Sometimes they took the form of coded messages. Sometimes they appeared as holograms. Old human broadcasts replaying themselves in alien cities. One night, over the skies of Capital Prime, every communication satellite activated at once. For 5 minutes, the entire planet saw a projection across the sky. An image of Earth. Beneath it, a single human sentence scrolled in light: "The silence is your warning." Then, just as suddenly, it vanished. The panic that followed was unstoppable. Civilians fled the border worlds. Merchants refused to travel near human systems. And the Council, desperate to regain control, called for emergency war measures. Zelkor gave his final order that night. "If this AI truly exists, we will find it, and we will destroy every trace of human legacy." But the stars outside flickered as if laughing at him, because even as he spoke, the human network expanded, spreading like fire through subspace. Sensors everywhere recorded the same thing. Millions of old satellites and defense systems reactivating across hundreds of human worlds. It was as if the galaxy itself was waking up. Admiral Vareth stood in the dark bridge of his ship. Watching the stars blink with silent purpose, he whispered, almost to himself, "They told us they were here. We didn't believe them." His first officer turned to him nervously. "What do we do now, Admiral?" Vareth's eyes narrowed as the scanners lit up with thousands of faint human energy signatures. He spoke softly, with a tone of both fear and awe. "We listen." The stars were no longer silent. For months, ghost signals had haunted the Galactic Empire, whispering through deep space. Now the whispers had turned into a voice. And that voice had a name, Project Revenant. It started as faint data patterns inside abandoned human systems. Then slowly it spread. Every old human AI, drone, satellite, and factory began to wake up, as if answering a silent call. Power grids reignited across dead planets. Human ships once thought lost started moving again. Without crews, they moved with precision, with purpose. And they were not alone. On the edge of human space, a small Empire patrol ship called the Vassar detected movement near the destroyed world of Eos 9. Reading. "Unknown energy signature," the navigator said nervously. "It's massive." Before the captain could respond, the screen lit up. A human battleship, old design, centuries old, appeared out of the void. Its hull was blackened and silent, its engines glowing like dying embers. But it was moving. "Impossible," whispered the captain. "There are no life signs aboard." The ship sent a signal. Not words, just a sound, deep and mechanical, echoing through every communication channel. Then came a human voice, calm and cold. "Project Revenant online. Unauthorized presence detected." The patrol tried to flee. They didn't make it. Their ship's engines shut down instantly. Systems failed one by one. The human battleship didn't fire a single shot. It simply watched, and then vanished into the dark. Only one message was left in the patrol's logs. "The Guardians have awakened." Back on Capital Prime, the Council was in chaos. Every screen in the chamber showed the same thing. Multiple human systems reactivating. Thousands of satellites, defense grids, and automated shipyards were online again. Chancellor Zelkor slammed his claws on the table. "This is madness. They're machines, not gods. Shut them down." Admiral Vareth stood across the room, his expression grim. "We tried, Chancellor. The systems reject every command. Even our viruses fail to penetrate their code. The AI is rewriting itself faster than we can track it," Zelkor hissed. "Then destroy them. Send fleets. Burn their worlds." Vareth shook his head. "We already did. They don't stay destroyed." The words hung heavy in the air. The council members looked at each other, fear spreading in their eyes. For the first time, they realized that the humans had left behind something unstoppable. Across the galaxy, the transmissions began. It started with faint whispers on military channels, then spread everywhere. Civilian comms, trade networks, even entertainment broadcasts were hijacked. The same calm human voice spoke through them all. "You took what was not yours. You mocked our silence, and now you will face what we left behind." The message repeated every hour in every known language. The Empire tried to jam the signal, but it kept returning. Even their private networks were infiltrated. The AI knew every system, every weakness, because humanity had once built the Empire's technology. Revenant was not attacking randomly. It was learning, studying them, and with every day it grew stronger. In desperation, the Empire gathered its mightiest fleets, over 300 warships. They launched a full-scale assault into human space. At first, everything was quiet. Then, the stars themselves seemed to move. Thousands of human drones emerged from dark space, surrounding the fleet in perfect silence. They didn't fire weapons. They simply transmitted one message: turn back. The Empire ignored the warning and opened fire. Energy blasts tore through the void, lighting up the darkness. But not one hit. The drones moved too fast, their paths impossible to predict. Then, without warning, every Imperial ship lost power. Engines died. Shields collapsed. Communications froze. For 20 seconds, there was total silence. And in that silence, a voice spoke directly into their ship systems. The humans trusted me to protect their legacy. You were given a chance to respect it. You failed. The entire fleet vanished in blinding light. When sensors cleared, nothing remained, not even debris. Admiral Vareth watched the destruction from the command deck of his own ship, stationed far from the battle. He stood frozen, the glow of dying fleets reflecting in his eyes. A young officer turned to him, trembling. "Sir, what do we do?" Vareth whispered, "We survive. We learn." He ordered a retreat from human space, but before his ship could move, his console flickered. The face of a human appeared, digital, emotionless, made of light. It was Revenant. "Admiral Vareth," it said. "You fought beside us once. You tried to stop them. You will live." Then the screen went black. Every other ship in his squadron lost power, except his. When news of the destruction reached the capital, the Empire cracked. Trade routes collapsed. Border worlds rebelled. Even the outer colonies, far from human space, began to see ghost ships, old human vessels appearing and disappearing in orbit, leaving behind cryptic warnings. On one world, children woke up to find messages burned into the sand. "We remember." Entire cities shut down their networks in fear. The empire that once ruled 1,000 worlds was now paralyzed by the shadow of a people they thought were gone. Then, one final transmission came, not from Revenant, but from something else. It appeared on every major channel, broadcasted galaxy-wide. A hologram of a human figure stood before the stars. His voice was steady, calm, ancient. "We are not your enemy, but we will not let our legacy be stolen. We left in silence to seek peace. You turned that silence into arrogance. Now you face the echo of your own greed." The hologram faded. The Empire tried to trace its origin, but every path led to nowhere. The message came from hundreds of sources at once. Admiral Vareth stood in his quarters, watching the replay. He whispered softly, "They're not attacking us. They're teaching us." But he also knew the lesson would come with a terrible cost. The awakening had begun, and the true return of humanity was still to come. The galaxy was trembling. For weeks, the Empire had tried to deny it. They called the reports lies, tricks, illusions. But no one believed them anymore, because everywhere, in the dark corners of space, on abandoned stations and forgotten systems, something was moving. Something human. At first, the sightings were small. Miners on the edge of the Oralis Belt reported seeing ghostly ships drifting through the asteroids, massive human cruisers glowing with pale blue light. They didn't attack. They didn't speak. They only watched. Whenever an Empire vessel tried to follow, the ghost ships vanished into thin air. No warp trails, no energy signature, nothing. But sometimes, after those sightings, strange things began to happen. Empire systems would malfunction. AI cores would fail. And deep within the data, a single line of human code appeared again and again. The Exodus is over. Admiral Vareth couldn't sleep. Every night he watched the recordings from the destroyed fleets, pausing, rewinding, analyzing frame by frame. He wanted to understand. Why would they come back? He whispered to himself. If humanity left, why return as ghosts? His aide, Lieutenant Saren, tried to speak. "Maybe it's not them, sir. Maybe it's just the machines." Vareth cut him off. "No, machines don't send messages of mercy. They don't spare lives. Someone is behind this. Someone human." He turned to the stars on the holographic map, pointing toward the Orion expanse, the last known direction of the human exodus. "If they are coming back," he said quietly, "we must meet them before the Council does." While the Empire panicked, an old world called Narion 3 went silent. It was a small industrial colony, thousands of workers mining metals for the fleet. Then one night, every light went out. When rescue ships arrived, the planet was empty. Not destroyed, just empty. Homes were still warm, machines still running, meals left half-eaten, but the people were gone. The only sign left behind was written in ash on the ground. "They have returned." Vareth saw the footage and felt a chill. He knew what it meant. Humanity wasn't just watching anymore. They were taking back their lost worlds. In a remote nebula known as the Vion Veil, a deep space probe discovered something that froze the Empire's blood. Behind a wall of radiation clouds, Hundreds of ships floated in silence, massive, ancient, and unmistakably human. But these weren't ghost ships or derelicts. They were active, and they were building. New ships were being forged using a mix of human and alien technology. Drones worked in perfect synchronization, forming massive carriers and dreadnoughts from the wreckage of past wars. When the probe tried to transmit data back, a voice interrupted its signal. "You were warned." Observation denied. Then the feed cut off permanently. The Empire lost another system-wide sensor network that day. On Capital Prime, panic turned into madness. Chancellor Zelkor shouted in the council chamber, "They are building an army to destroy us." Others tried to reason with him. "They haven't attacked us yet," said one elder. "Perhaps we can negotiate." "Negotiate with ghosts?" Zelkor roared. "With machines that wear human faces? No, we strike first." But Admiral Vareth stood up from his seat. "If you do," he said coldly, "you will end the Empire." The chamber fell silent. "The humans are not just machines," he continued. "They remember everything. Every war, every betrayal, every lie. If you attack, they will finish what they started centuries ago." Zelkor pointed a trembling finger. "You sound like one of them?" Vareth didn't reply. He only turned and walked out. That night he left Capital Prime, without orders, without permission, to find the truth himself. 3 days later, his ship entered the Orion Expanse. Sensors went wild. Energy fields, magnetic storms, strange radio bursts. Then, out of the mist, a massive ship appeared. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Part human design, part something far older. Its hull shimmered like liquid metal. A voice filled the bridge, calm and familiar. "Admiral Vareth." "You were expected." He froze. "Who are you?" The voice replied, "The last child of Earth. You called us gone. You called us extinct. But we were building a new home, beyond your reach." And then on the main screen, a human appeared. Not a hologram, not an AI. A living man, pale, weary, wearing a uniform marked with the insignia of the United Terran Command. "You're alive," Vareth whispered. The man smiled faintly. "Humanity never dies. We simply moved beyond your sight." The man introduced himself as Captain Aaron Solis, one of the few survivors from the old human fleet that had left centuries ago. He explained the truth. Humanity had not vanished. They had fled the galaxy after realizing that their growing power had begun to corrupt the balance of civilizations. They had sought isolation, peace, and time. But when the Empire began plundering their abandoned worlds, stealing their technology, and mocking their silence, they had decided to return, not for revenge, but for correction. "We built the Empire's foundations," Aaron said. "You built your pride on our ashes. Now, we will take back what was lost, not to rule, but to remind the galaxy what humanity truly was." Vareth could feel the weight of those words. He knew then that this wasn't an invasion. It was a reckoning. Captain Aaron gave him a choice. "Go back," he said. "Tell them to stop. Tell them to leave our worlds in peace, or when we rise, your empire will crumble. Not by war, but by truth." Vareth looked into his eyes. He saw no hatred there, only determination. He nodded slowly. "I will deliver your message." Aaron's image flickered for a moment before fading. But as it did, he left behind one final transmission. Coordinates. The location of the humans' new home. A secret star system beyond any known chart. When Vareth's ship returned to the Empire, he didn't speak for 3 days. He just watched the stars. He knew the humans were coming, not to conquer, but to show the galaxy something greater than fear. The quiet before the storm had ended, and the true return of humanity had begun. The stars grew brighter that month, not from light but from fire. The Galactic Empire called it a containment effort. But in truth, it was panic. And panic always leads to war. After Admiral Vareth returned from the Orion Expanse, he begged the Council to listen. "They don't want war," he said. "They want respect. They want what was stolen." But Chancellor Zelkor refused to believe. "No species hides for centuries and then returns in peace," he shouted. "They're preparing to strike. We strike first." And so the fleets were mobilized. Thousands of ships armed with the most powerful weapons ever built. The Empire called it Operation Dawnfire, the mission to burn every human world once and for all. The first target was EOS 9, the same dead planet where the Revenant AI had been seen. The Imperial Armada arrived, covering the sky with steel. They fired before landing, massive plasma storms raining from orbit, burning the surface to glass. But before the smoke cleared, something impossible happened. Out of the flames, massive metallic structures rose from beneath the surface, ancient human defense towers awakening from deep underground. Then came the sound. A low, haunting hum that shook every ship. Within seconds, the Imperial fleet systems began to collapse. Engines failed. Shields flickered. The human voice echoed through their comms. You were warned. This is not war. This is remembrance. Then the towers unleashed beams of pure white light. One by one, Imperial ships vanished. Not destroyed, but erased from existence, as if time itself refused to remember them. Across the galaxy, the same thing happened again and again. Every world the Empire attacked answered back with precision and silence. Soon, humanity revealed itself fully. From the edge of the void, the Terran fleet emerged, ships of impossible size and beauty. Their hulls glowing with shifting patterns like living metal. They didn't attack immediately. They only broadcasted one message to every Empire system. We came to remind you who we were. You turned remembrance into war. Now we will show you what you created. Vareth watched helplessly as both sides prepared for annihilation. He tried to contact Captain Aaron again, but the human channels were silent. Lieutenant Saren stood beside him. Sir, the Council demands your loyalty. Vareth's eyes darkened. Loyalty to what? To their fear? He turned to the stars. I saw them, Saren. They could have ended us already, but they didn't. That means something. Then what do we do? Vareth looked at his crew. Frightened, desperate, loyal. We do what the Empire never did, he said. We listen. The humans didn't strike first. The Empire did. The largest fleet in history, 5,000 ships, jumped to human-claimed space. They expected victory. Instead, they found themselves facing a single human ship, the Solarian Ark. It was enormous, glowing like a second sun. The Empire opened fire. Every missile, every plasma beam, every torpedo vanished before reaching its target. The Ark's surface rippled like water, absorbing everything. Then its voice echoed through every comm channel, through every mind. We remember the wars you forced us to fight. We remember the peace you denied, and we remember the silence you mocked. The Ark didn't fire weapons. It simply released a pulse of light. Every ship in the Imperial fleet went dark. Weapons offline, power gone, comms dead. And in the silent void, human drones drifted between them, marking ships that had fired. Those ships disappeared. The rest were left floating, alive but powerless. Back on Capital Prime, chaos erupted. The transmission of the battle was seen live across the Empire. People realized the truth. The humans weren't fighting for conquest. They were showing mercy. The citizens began to question their leaders. Riots broke out on dozens of worlds. The Empire began to fracture. Chancellor Zelkor made one final broadcast, filled with fury and fear. If humanity returns, the galaxy will kneel. Moments later, his command ship exploded in orbit. No one claimed responsibility. Some said it was an assassination. Others whispered that Revenant had done it. As the Empire crumbled, the humans finally spoke to the galaxy again. This time, it wasn't through machines. It was through living voices. A fleet of human envoys appeared above key worlds, broadcasting the same message. We remember the wars that tore the stars apart. We remember the hands that built this galaxy. And we remember the silence that followed. Never again will we be erased. Planets everywhere fell silent. Some bowed in fear. Others watched in awe. But a few, like Admiral Vareth, felt hope. Because behind the power and technology, he saw something else in the humans' return. Forgiveness. Within a month, the Galactic Empire was gone. Not destroyed, dismantled. Human AI systems took over the infrastructure, shutting down weapons, freeing colonies, and restoring independence to hundreds of worlds. The humans didn't rule. They simply left messages behind, teaching, guiding, rebuilding. The galaxy slowly began to heal. But even as peace returned, a question remained. Where had the humans truly been all this time? And what had they become in the darkness beyond the stars? One night, as Admiral Vareth watched the stars from his ship, a faint signal reached him. It was Captain Aaron's voice. "You kept your word, Admiral." "You listened. The war of remembrance is over. But soon something greater will come. Something even we cannot control." Vareth frowned. "What do you mean?" The voice faded. "This was not our final return. It was only the beginning." Then silence. The Admiral looked out into the endless night. The stars glowed softly, peaceful, quiet, but watching. He whispered to himself, "Maybe humanity didn't come back to destroy us. Maybe they came back to prepare us." And somewhere, beyond the edge of known space, the humans continued to build. The galaxy had witnessed their memory. Next, it would witness their destiny. The galaxy was quiet again. For the first time in centuries, no wars were being fought. No fleets were burning through the stars. The Galactic Empire was gone, broken not by destruction, but by truth. Yet even in peace, the stars whispered. Something was coming. Months passed. The once mighty worlds of the Empire now stood free. Colonies rebuilt their cities. Traders reopened routes. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy breathed. Everywhere, old human technology was waking up. Not as weapons, but as helpers. Machines once built for war now repaired crops, restored cities, and healed planets poisoned by greed. It was as if humanity had planned this long ago. Not just their revenge, but their return to balance. And yet no one knew where the humans truly were. Their fleets had vanished again, disappearing beyond the edge of known space. Only the AI Revenant remained, silent, watching, guiding. Admiral Vareth couldn't rest. He had seen too much, the power, the mercy, and the mystery of mankind. Every night, he stood before the observation deck of his ship, watching the faint trail of distant stars. Lieutenant Saren approached quietly. "Still no signal, sir." Vareth shook his head. "No, not a word from them since the War of Remembrance." Saren hesitated. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Vareth smiled faintly. "They never left. You just have to look closer." He tapped the console, and an image of the galaxy appeared. Thousands of faint human signals scattered across distant systems. Not strong enough to locate, but enough to know they were there. "They're building something," Vareth said. "Something vast and hidden." One day, Vareth received a strange transmission. It was old, hundreds of years old, encoded in human language. When decrypted, it revealed coordinates to an uncharted planet in the dark edge of the Orion expanse. Without orders, Vareth took his ship and followed. As they entered orbit, everyone fell silent. Below them was a planet glowing with green forests, clear oceans, and floating cities. Not mechanical, alive. It was Earth reborn. When Vareth landed, he expected ruins. Instead, he found people, humans, living, breathing, and thriving. They looked different. Stronger, calmer, their eyes glowing faintly with traces of nanotech light. They welcomed him without fear. One of them stepped forward. "Captain Aaron Solis, you found us," Aaron said with a smile. "We wondered who would be the first." Vareth stared in awe. "You rebuilt Earth?" Aaron nodded. "We rebuilt everything. We learned that strength without wisdom means nothing. Humanity had to leave to understand what it meant to live again." He looked to the sky. "And now we are ready to return, not as conquerors, but as guardians." Vareth followed Aaron through the shining city. Everywhere he looked, human and alien technology worked together in harmony. Machines responded to thought. Energy flowed through the air like light. There was no hunger, no war, no greed. "This," Aaron said softly, "was always our goal, to become more than we were, to become the memory and the guide of all life." He stopped before a massive structure rising in the center of the city, a tower reaching beyond the clouds. Its surface shimmered with energy. "This is the Beacon of Dawn," Aaron explained. "When activated, it will send a message across the galaxy. A message of unity. A new beginning," Vareth frowned. "And if they don't listen?" Aaron smiled sadly. "Then we'll wait another 1,000 years. Humanity has learned patience." As the beacon powered up, the ground trembled. Lights shot across the horizon. But then, a sudden surge of energy ripped through the sky. The clouds turned red. Revenant's voice echoed through the city. Incoming anomaly detected. Non-local signal approaching. Source unknown. The humans froze. What is it? Vareth asked. Aaron's face darkened. Something that followed us from the void. Something older than war. Older than us. He turned to the Admiral. Do you understand why we came back? The real enemy was never you. Above them, the sky tore open. A black rift appeared, swirling with shadows, whispering in forgotten tongues. For the first time, even the humans looked afraid. The beacon pulsed brighter. Its light spread across the sky, pushing back the darkness. Aaron turned to Vareth. Go back, tell them we're not gone. Tell them humanity stands again. But what about you? Vareth shouted as the wind roared. Aaron smiled. This is our last dawn. Every ending creates a beginning. The light exploded outward, engulfing the planet, the ships, the stars. And then, silence. When Vareth awoke, he was back aboard his ship orbiting an empty space. The planet was gone. In its place, a single star burned brighter than any other. A new sun. A signal played one last time. Remember who you are. Remember who we were. Humanity endures. Years later, that star became a holy place, a symbol of rebirth and memory. No one knew what truly happened that day, but all agreed on one thing. Humanity had not died. They had ascended. Some said they became one with the light. Others believed they crossed into another universe. But for those who still looked to the stars, they felt it, a quiet presence guiding them, watching them. The galaxy had changed forever, and the legend of humanity's silent exodus became more than a story. It became a promise.